Am I the asshole for refusing to forgive my parents after they threw me out and now pretend they raised me? So Reddit, I, 27F, grew up invisible. My older sister, Lila, 29F, was the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect manners, perfect in my parents' eyes. I existed in her shadow. Every achievement of mine was ignored, every mistake magnified. I learned early to stay quiet, blend in, disappear. When I turned 18, my parents finally revealed their true feelings. My mother's voice was sharp and cold. "You're 18. We can't afford to keep two adult children in this house. You need to start living on your own." My father added stiffly, "You owe us for raising you. Consider this a start." Then they shoved 2 garbage bags at me, my life crammed into plastic. Clothes, childhood books, a few photos, old trinkets. No hugs, no "we'll miss you." Just go. I had nowhere to go. My best friend Mara lived alone. She opened her door immediately. "Come, you can stay as long as you need." That night, I curled up on her couch, trembling, stomach tight with shame, feeling like the world had expelled me. I got a job cleaning at a small pet grooming place. It was exhausting, humiliating, and demoralizing. Scrubbing floors, washing dogs, handling angry clients. People whispered behind my back, "Who even let someone like her touch their pets?" Managers yelled at me for tiny mistakes, sometimes in front of clients. I worked 12-hour days, coming home aching, hair damp, hands raw from chemicals. I ate instant noodles most nights, sometimes skipping meals when money was tight. Mara brought me tea, checked in every morning, reminded me I wasn't invisible. I dreamed of vet school. After 3 years of grinding work, I saved enough to take out a loan for tuition. Vet school was 5 brutal years, endless lectures, late-night studying, exams that drained me physically and emotionally. I lived in a tiny, cold apartment, often falling asleep at my desk over textbooks, eating cold leftovers, wondering if I'd made the wrong choice. Mara was my lifeline, reminding me to shower, eat, breathe, and keep going. Finally, I graduated and opened my first clinic, a small space with 1 exam room and a tiny waiting area. Life was still hard. I was paying off my loan, running a clinic from scratch, and juggling endless responsibilities. But it was mine. Slowly, word of mouth brought clients who trusted me. Every animal I treated, every grateful owner, felt like a tiny victory. A few years later, the first clinic stabilized and I decided to expand. A second clinic, a larger shelter, and finally I rescued and adopted Luna and Rex. Luna, a shy white husky trembling from abuse and abandonment. Rex, a scrappy mutt with scars from neglect. It took weeks to earn their trust. Watching them relax, curl up near me, and finally wag their tails freely felt like I had created my first real family. Through all this, my parents never stopped calling, screaming about money I didn't have, threatening lawsuits, telling me I owed them for raising me. I never told anyone but Mara. One night, after a particularly cruel call where my mother screamed I was ungrateful and ruining their lives, I finally asked the question I had avoided for years. "Why do you hate me?" Her voice was icy. "Because you're the proof of my mistake. You aren't your father's child. You ruined my marriage just by existing." My father said nothing. I froze. I sat quietly, staring at the ceiling. All the shame, all the humiliation, all the nights I cried alone, it surged through me. Then I looked at Luna and Rex, newly adopted, trusting, wagging tails, curling against me. I held them close. I thought of Mara, always there, and of every late night, every small victory, every exam I survived. I realized something. I was still standing. I had survived the worst, built a life from nothing, and was creating a future on my own terms. They had cast me out, but I had created a home. I had built a world where I was loved, needed, and in control. And yet, the anger and hurt lingered. I didn't know if I would ever forgive them. AITA for resenting my parents for hating me for existing, while simultaneously building a life they could never touch. Hi again. Reddit. A few years after opening my first clinic, life had finally started to feel like my own, though I was still paying off my vet school loan and juggling long hours. The first clinic had grown steadily, and I finally felt confident enough to open a second clinic, along with a larger shelter for abandoned animals. It was in that shelter that I rescued and officially adopted Luna and Rex. Luna, a shy white husky, trembled from fear and past abuse, while Rex, a small, scrappy mutt with scars and a crooked leg, had been abandoned and beaten. It took patience, quiet words, and slow trust building to see them finally wag their tails freely, curl up near me, and let me love them. They became my first true family, my anchors in a life I had built from nothing. But just as I started to feel safe, my parents' harassment escalated. The screaming phone calls continued, but now they started showing up outside my clinics, glaring from across the street, sometimes attempting to enter. I became anxious every time a shadow passed my window or a car idled near the door. One night, I arrived early at the shelter to feed the animals and found the side door jimmied. Someone had tried to break in. My heart pounded and I called the police immediately. That's when Evan arrived. Calm, professional, and serious, he listened to my story without judgment. He helped me file restraining orders, checked security footage, and even patrolled the area for a while to make sure my parents didn't return. Over time, Evan began volunteering at the shelter, helping with feeding, cleaning cages, and walking the dogs. Luna was cautious at first, but warmed up to him quickly, curling up beside him. Rex followed him everywhere, wagging his tail, clearly sensing his kindness. Watching him interact with the animals, patient, gentle, respectful, made me see him differently. We slowly became friends. One afternoon, I was scrubbing a stubborn stain in a cage, exhausted and sore, when Evan appeared with a tray of coffee and snacks. "Thought you might need a break," he said quietly. Luna sniffed his hand and sat beside him. Rex leaned against his leg. I realized he had earned the dog's trust before even speaking to me. Over months, that friendship began to turn into something deeper. We shared late-night coffee breaks, laughed over small victories, a scared dog trusting a human, a shelter animal being adopted, and comforted each other on rough days. I found myself thinking about him constantly, feeling warmth in moments I hadn't realized I was missing. One evening, he came to my apartment for dinner. Candles, simple pasta, quiet music. It was the first time I felt like I could relax completely. And of course, that night, my parents showed up again, pounding on the door, screaming about money and repayment. Evan calmly opened the door in his uniform. "If you step foot here again, you will be arrested. She is safe, and so are these animals." They left stunned. I cried quietly that night, holding Luna and Rex, feeling a mixture of relief, rage, and gratitude. For the first time, I realized that I had a true protector, someone who cared for me and my chosen family. Even as I felt grateful for Evan and proud of the life I had built, I still carried the weight of my parents' rejection and hatred. But now I had a shield, a small, loving family of animals, loyal friends, and a man who respected and valued me. AITA for finally feeling safe and happy while my parents continued to harass me, and for being unwilling to forgive them after everything they did. Hi, Reddit. It's been about 2 years since my last update, and for the first time, life finally feels like mine. Evan and I are together now. What started as his help at the shelter slowly turned into something steady and real. He still comes by to volunteer, though I think Luna and Rex are his main reason. Luna curls up against him every time he sits down, and Rex practically trips over himself to follow him around. Sometimes I just watch them and realize how far I've come from the scared girl sleeping on a friend's couch with nothing. Both clinics are doing well, and the shelter has grown more than I ever dreamed. I'm still paying off my loan, but it doesn't bother me anymore. It just reminds me that I earned everything myself. A few weeks ago, I got a call from my sister, Lila. I almost didn't answer. She said, "Mom's sick. She wants to see you." Then she added, "You've done well for yourself. You should be grateful. We raised you after all." I didn't even get angry this time. I just said, "You didn't raise me. You threw me out. You made sure I had nothing. I don't owe you anything." Then I hung up. When I told Evan, he just smiled and said, "Good, you don't have to carry them anymore." And for once, I believed it. That night, I sat on the couch between him and the dogs, the house quiet except for their breathing, and I realized I don't need their love or approval. I already have everything I ever needed: peace, purpose, and people and pause who actually care. AETA for never looking back and choosing the family I built instead of the one that threw me away.